Hello, Mountaineer fans. Welcome to a wonderful Friday night. We're going to be talking a little bit of this might be kryptonite to you guys, but I'm going to say a bad four-letter word, PITT. We're going to be talking about PITT football. What comes to mind when you say PITT football? I think about, I'm still paying therapy bills on and having nightmares about 2007. I don't know how the hell West Virginia could screw up a wet dream like that, but they did, and they definitely 15 years later. And so the guy I have on the show tonight, let me give you a little bit of backstory. I haven't talked to him in about, other than Facebook and giving him a little bit of heat. He gives me heat about every football season. Haven't talked to him face to face in 30 years. Have him on tonight. So stay with me. We have a fantastic show. He's a PITT alum and a great guy to have on, very knowledgeable football fan. So if you want to talk shit about PITT or hear shit talked about West Virginia, this is the place to do it. So
I don't ever slow up. I don't ever slow up. No, I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you want to play tough and want to hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative when you should be getting after it. I got facts over tracks, this and that, spitting slow, spitting fast. I could roast, I could gas, think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past. And the pettiness, a reflection of the emptiness. Hilarious, you think you're worth my time, you're delirious. Mysterious, because you hide behind a fake exterior. Inferior, you know I'll always be a bit superior. Get off of me, this ain't no humble brag. I want you to hear words, you can say them back. I want you to feel free from the chains at last, and to believe in what you got, it was built to last, yeah. Now that I've been put through hell, I never got anyone's help. I had to do it all myself. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always.
So that's it, guys. We're ready for another crazy Friday night, and we're going to talk. There's all kinds of things going on in college football. I'm so angry about the Big 12 selling their soul to the devil for a payday loan that I can't even talk about it tonight. Kuz's Corners talked about it. Locked on Big 12's talked about it. I talked about it last night. You know my thoughts. I think it's a horrible idea. It's just buying time. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome Joe Hart's in here. He's coming in from Virginia, and he is a Western Pennsylvania guy, a PITT diehard. And I'm going to have to ask him if he's still a season ticket holder. Well, here he is. Joe.
Hey, Shane. What's happening, brother?
So
Western Pennsylvania guy. Dude, we grew up 2 miles apart.
We did. We went to high school together, same kindergarten through 12th grade. I mean, and it's been 30 years. You look the same, sound the same. There's no change. Only difference to me is I shaved my head. I can grow it in, but there's a couple spots that's thin. There you got your whole head of hair.
Well, there's a reason you're shooting me from the neck up here.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's good to see you. And I'll tell you what, it's fantastic for you to take the time to talk to us about being a PITT fan. I have a lot of questions for you, and I don't have them written down. So as you know, I have ADHD to the nth degree. So first, I'm going to start off with, when you were looking at schools, most guys that we went to high school with, most of the kids we went to high school with, girls too, went to Penn State, right? Majority of the cats went to Penn State. I think me and you were the only ones that didn't either go to Indiana University of Pennsylvania, a smaller school, or Penn State. But Penn State was like the 13th grade. And I'm going to tell you real quick why I didn't go, because I went up there and it didn't have any sort of college feel to me. It felt like just a bunch of apartments, and it just didn't feel like home. What made PITT home for you?
you're gonna hate me for this, but I was a band geek. You know this.
Okay.
I went down to PITT Stadium with a buddy of mine. Saw their band play, and I was a drummer, and I saw gold drum heads on their drums, and there were 6 of them.
Yeah.
And they tilted back and forth in the sun, and they were playing stuff that I had never heard of before.
Yeah.
And I said, that's where I want to go to school.
There you go.
And that was what made it. The secondary reason was my dad went to Penn State, and as an 18-year-old does, he wants to piss his father off. So I went to Pitt because my dad went to Penn State.
Yeah, that's a great story. I love that. That's good times. I think Nick Kalinavich, a guy we went to school with, went down to West Virginia for a post grad. But of course, I just moved off campus at that time. But he's a WVU guy. What other kids from our area went to Pitt that you know
of? Rhonda Bloom went to Pitt.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
So did Carmen Weitzel.
Okay, Carmen did. Okay.
Yep, and I think we were the only 3 who made our way down that way.
Well, that's fantastic. Did you see them when you were on campus?
Rhonda was in the band for a couple of years.
Oh, no kidding.
We didn't talk much.
Yeah, it's a big campus.
Well, yeah. I mean, we were friendly, but we didn't really hang out. Carmen was actually a cheerleader for a couple of years.
Oh, no kidding. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So it was just you and Nick that made its way down to Mountaineer Village.
My sister went down. The year I graduated was her freshman year, and then oh my gosh, last name Smith. He went down a couple years after that, but other than that, that's about it. But what's funny is you run into people, no matter where your travels are, that either have a West Virginia, a Pitt hat, and that they have similar stories to what we have, and that's what makes college football great. I think is I remember landing in Qatar and also landing in Kuwait. Both places, I see someone had graffitied a flying WV. Okay, and Porta Johns in Iraq. It's just like, so. I guess West Virginia fans are vandals, but let's talk the schedule. We're going to talk about the schedule coming up. And before we get into that, I have to ask you, what is your opinion on the State of the Union for the ACC?
The ACC is dying a slow death. Just like probably the Big 12, we are in constant competition for hundreds of millions of dollars that are going solely to the SEC and the Big 10.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of college football is in trouble. And that's not good. You can't have 35 teams dictate to the other the other 85 Division I football teams how things are going to go. It's just absolutely ridiculous. We're going to reach I think we're going to reach a tipping point where the other schools are going to eventually galvanize and figure out a way to stop this nonsense. College football is a $1 billion a year industry that cannot be denied. But when it's the money is focused solely on the few, the many will rise up, as it were. Yeah. And I think a massive realignment is going to have to take place. And as much as I sincerely and deeply in my heart distrust government involvement in business, it may take an act of Congress to change it.
I agree, because we talked last night and I hadn't heard, I've read about it, but I really didn't believe that it was legitimate until Dennis Dodd came out with that article. And Joey who's on the show with me last night, put that up. It was like a gut punch. The fact that the Big 12 is going to be selling out in order to. I used this term last night. I used it again. It's a payday loan. It's a payday loan, and I can't think of any other way to put it. But if the ACC, you have three teams right now that want to just bolt, and they have a lawsuit. Where do you think? What are the top 4 teams that in the ACC after Florida State, Clemson, and North Carolina?
If we're looking backwards, I would say, Pitt, obviously, based on the heritage, Syracuse, Virginia, and Boston College. But if we're looking forward, I have no idea, because every single one of these teams are in a constant state of flux.
Yeah.
With how everything's working. We have no idea who's on the rosters. There's no sense of continuity. There's no sense of who's coming back, who's getting better. You've constantly got, we just signed a middle linebacker from Middle Tennessee State. He's going to make a huge impact. And then when August rolls around, he's buried 3rd on the depth chart. And you have no idea who that guy is for 2 years.
Yeah, there's no tie. Yeah.
You don't know. You have no idea. I mean, Louisville had a nice run. NC State had a nice run back in the day. You have no idea. There's no continuity. So it's, I guess that's kind of exciting as you're trying to watch the games, because you have no idea who anybody is, and you have no idea who's going to win the games until about halfway through the season, when you realize who the good teams are and who the good teams aren't.
That's true. As far as the money goes, I think Louisville be probably the biggest scorer, because they were making big bucks even when they weren't in the ACC. So
yeah,
I would
Miami's always going to be. I'm surprised Miami's not one of the big 4 that are trying to leave. I'm really surprised by that.
I'm surprised too. And Pitt was one of the last ones that I've heard start shopping around and looking. And what I've heard is recently they've been in talks with folks from Dallas. But you have NC State being talked about and locked on Big 12 as being a better fit for the Big 12 than Pitt, and I disagree, because as we know, the backyard brawl brings eyeballs to TV sets, and that brings dollars and cents.
Yep.
So would you like to see a few teams join the Big 12, or is that something you'd rather, as a fan and a Pitt fan, stay in the ACC even if it was watered down?
Well, I would like to see them succeed. I'd like to see all these schools succeed. Just because it's my alma mater doesn't mean I don't want to see the other schools succeed either. But I think a better landing spot, to be perfectly honest, would be the Big Ten for Pitt.
You think Pitt would be blocked because Penn State would put the kibosh to it?
I think Joe Paterno's legacy is slowly dying,
mm-hmm.
and that hatred has gone back and forth. And even though we've got the Big 33 game, the high school game between the Western PA kids and the Eastern Ohio kids, the Big 33 is a huge thing. Penn State gets almost all of them, and then West Virginia and Pitt pick up the scraps almost every year. Pittsburgh's not the hotbed of recruiting anymore, so it's not that big of a deal. And we've also got to consider the basketball implications. I'm not exactly sure how well the Big 12 did in basketball. I know West Virginia beat us last year, and that was a pretty big downer for me. But there's also the financials of the universities themselves, and that's also what they're looking out for. So it's like a 3-pronged monster, and none of it has to do with football. It's all about money, research, and TV rights, and it bugs the shit out of me. Yeah,
I could only see Pitt going to the Big Ten. The SEC is would not be a fit for Pitt. Absolutely not.
Not at all. Not at all.
West Virginia, I could see going to the SEC, where they were supposed to go, but Missouri at the last minute at the strike of midnight got bumped ahead of them. Some sort of phone call. I don't know what happened there. They would not be even considered for the Big Ten, and that's because I don't know if you know, but West Virginia, the state, has a thing called the Promise Scholarship. So if any high school kid has over a certain grade point average, they can go to WVU on a scholarship. So that brings their, academic standing, that pushes it down quite a bit. So, but with that being said, I think we talked a little bit about this right before the show, guys. We talked for about 5 minutes, but we're going to see a cataclysmic change. There's going to be two big ships, and the two life rafts remaining are going to be the ACC and the Big 12. And I think the Big 12 is maybe stay afloat a little longer. It's going to be like rats jumping off a ship, clamoring to get on those two as they pull out of harbor. And I think it's going to be a scramble for these teams to have a landing spot, unless like you said, Joe, that there's a congressional or some sort of legislation passed to protect these land grant institutions that are literally owned by the people. I mean, the nation itself has put forth their trust in these institutions to educate children, the children of the children, and now corporate greed is coming into play, and it's quite a sad state of affairs. But are there any other things that concern you as far as, if you see, a Pitt or NC State or Louisville going to the Big 12, what would you think that would do as far as your fan base?
Fan base, we wouldn't care on the field, but off the field, we would know that we're losing that battle. If it comes down to the ACC and the Big 12, it actually already has. The ACC and the Big 12 to start fighting it out to see who's going to be in third place in the football world. If you guys manage to take a couple of those schools, that's the death knell. If any of our teams jump to the Big 12, that's just going to start a wave.
Yeah, Louisville and Miami are the two that would just literally be a huge shift, because I think Miami is like one of those yard sale Gucci bags that if you take that 25-cent sticker off of it, all they need is a couple, like a 18 months of solid being in the top 10, and that brand is just going to be hot. And look at Clemson. This. Pitt fans know this. Clemson was an afterthought. Pitt has had their number the past how many years? They could be ranked and Pitt smokes them. But I think Clemson is, they've won a national championship. They have a good coach, but I think they're overrated, overvalued, where Miami is the complete opposite. What are your thoughts?
I would agree. If you're a 17-year-old kid deciding about where you want to go to school, do you want to spend your off days on South Beach, or do you want to spend it in Columbia, South Carolina?
Yeah, Greenville, Columbia. Yeah, like they're like little. You drive past, you blink, it's like you're past it. It's beautiful. Where Clemson is absolutely. I drive through there every couple of weeks, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. But it's not.
It's not gorgeous to an 18-year-old kid who wants to hit the clubs and
no. If you want to, South Beach and the U. Come on, it's still, and we talked last night. It is like borderline. It would have been blue chip 2002, but they're like on the fringe of being a blue chip school, I think. And people forget that they had a run of 20 years where they were always in contention for a championship. But people seem to have a very short memory. Speaking of short memories, let's just get to this schedule.
All right.
Okay. I'm going to pull it up here.
Old. I got to put my glasses on.
Yeah. Well, I'll read from it too. So I went through and I was looking through it, and I think there is one game, and I'll talk about it in a little bit, but there's one game. If Pitt wins, it's the difference between them being having 4 losses and having 6 or 7. So I want to go through. So let's talk about. So you're a season ticket holder, or you were?
I still am.
You still are. So
Yep.
let's talk about. So you being in Virginia, what does Friday night look like for you prior to you coming into town? I mean, do you take a half day off work? Run me through that.
Some days I'll take it off, depending on how big the game is. But usually is what I do is after work, because the traffic here in the DC area is absolutely horrendous. I have no desire to sit on interstates 270 and 70 for 3 hours just to get 12 miles away from the city. But I'll leave later in the evening, say 8 or 9 o'clock on a Friday night, and I will drive up to Marion Center, Pennsylvania, and stay with my parents for Friday night. Sometimes I'll bring one of my kids. Sometimes I'll bring both of my kids. Sometimes I'll bring my wife. But usually it's a solo trip. I tend to take one of them to each, just so I can have my alone time. But yeah, and then it's up at the crack of dawn on Saturday morning for the hour and 20 to downtown to start tailgating.
Well, that sounds good. I'm telling you, man, if you get sick of your parents, I'm about probably 30, 40, 45 minutes from the stadium. So just hop on 79 and you're there.
Yeah,
So
you're up there in Butler County. That's exactly where we were talking about it right before we went live. That's Butler County is where I'm looking to go.
Yeah, it's a good area. The taxes are not bad. School district's decent, but your kids are older now, so real close to a lake, a lot of trout fishing streams, close to the airport, 79, Cranberry, all kinds of good shot. But anyways, so that's pretty neat because when I just got my season tickets. I had them from about 2004 until 2010. I had them, and the routine was I would, like, if I was at West Point, New York, or if I was out like at Fort Leonard Wood, Kansas, my buddy would drive from Oklahoma, pick me up in Missouri, and we'd drive, or I would drive down from New York when I lived there. When I lived in Georgia, I'd drive up.
You would drive 800 miles for a football game?
I have flown in from Korea to go to a football game. 23-hour flight to catch a football game.
Hats off, brother. Hats off.
That's when the Mountaineers were smoking good, brother. That's when they were hot and on fire. That was some good ball. And
I thought my life was tough, spending 5 hours in a car. No, I guess there are other people out there who are working harder than
Labor Day. So Labor Day, when I was up at West Point, I would work West Point football games. I'd have to take leave if it was like the first, like Labor Day. I'd take leave, and I would take I had a Harley. I'd drive the Harley down, and I would get into town on a Friday night. We'd all meet up at this one place. People in the comments, if you know Lady G's, you know what I'm talking about. It was $5 all you can drink cans of beer. Get a cab, go back to a hotel, wake up, start tailgating. With this now, I'm probably just going to drive down for the game. Because this is my first year having season tickets again, but I have a kid playing JV and varsity ball, so the JV games are Saturdays and the high school games are, of course, Friday nights. But so you get up, what time do you usually get to the stadium when you leave for Marion Center?
Usually get there between 4 and 3.5 hours before the game.
Okay, that's good. That is the sweet spot for tailgating. That's the sweet spot, I think, for tailgating. Have you ever went to Morgantown for the backyard brawl, other than being when you were in school in a band capacity?
No.
No,
I'm not sure I'd survive.
I think you'd be all right.
The last in my younger days, we'll put it that way. I could get pretty rowdy.
Okay.
And now I definitely would not get as rowdy as I did. I still don't, but yeah, I mean, now, as approaching 50 and understanding, how the world works, and recognizing that West Virginia and Pitt are essentially the same school, just separated by about 70 miles of highway.
Yep.
a healthy hatred is good.
Yeah.
And it's good for college football. But back in the day, man, I hear one eat shit Pitt, and I'm ready. I'm fucking ready, yo. I'm ready to go.
So here's a story for you. Joe, if you don't laugh at this, I don't know what you're gonna think's funny, but I was so butthurt. Guys, Tim Green, Traveling Fools, anybody in there that knows, you guys, Joey knows in the comment section. After the 2007 nightmare, I went to Ninth Street Deli. A kid had a Pitt hat. He was making my sandwich. I said, no, I want her to make my sandwich. I made them have someone else make my damn sandwich because the kid had a Pitt hat. I was so upset about that. I was afraid, but now it's just like, eh. But so let's talk a little bit about, so what time of year do you buy your tickets? Do you get them all at the same, like around April, or when?
Around April when the emails start coming from the ticket office. You just click renew. We've moved a couple of times. Luckily, considering how apathetic most of Pitt's fan base is, we're able to be really in really good seats. My seats are row R on the home side, on the 47.5-yard line.
That's crazy.
And the cost is not what you'd expect it to be. It's really not that expensive.
2010, it went from costing me about 4 tickets to cost me about maybe $2,500.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, and then they wanted a donation. So now I buy my tickets and I have to give a donation per seat.
Yeah, the seat license. Yeah.
So the donation would have been, now to have those seats is $500 a ticket. So you have another $2,000 in fees. So it's to be quite expensive, but especially when I was selling some of those tickets when I was deployed, but when I was deployed in Iraq or going in Afghanistan or wherever I was, the ticket office would send me a DVD of the game literally the next morning. Like Sunday morning, they put it in the mail and I'd have it within 4 or 5 days.
That's awesome.
Watch the game. So that was really cool. But hey, let's get to some brass tacks and talk how good or how bad Pitt's going to be. So off the top of your head, what are you predicting? And I know we're going to go through schedule, but what's your prediction for next year for Pitt?
With a new offensive coordinator and a completely and totally new offensive system. We hired Cade Bell out of Western Carolina. Mm-hmm. The guy runs a modified version of the Texas Air Raid from Mike Leach. It's all up tempo, no huddles at all, which is quite a diversion from a couple of years ago when we had KP. Rest in peace, Kenny Pickett. He would run to the sideline and get the call from the offensive coordinator, Mark Whipple. So we were just a slow, plodding, methodical offense under KP. But now it is all letters, numbers, and I'm not sure how fast that's going to gel. It's going to catch some teams by surprise, but teams with an average or above average defense, they are going to struggle a lot because they're gonna mix and match. I especially with Narduzzi being a defensive-minded coach. Yeah, he doesn't really know how to manage a game with an offense like this. I'm hoping he's smart enough to pick it up. I hope Cade Bell teaches him some stuff, and lets Cade Bell work to see how it goes. But as a fan, I hate these kind of offenses, because it's so much hit or miss unless you have spectacular playmakers at the quarterback and wide receiver positions.
And I don't think Pitt has that this year that I know of. I haven't seen any flash.
You don't have to say that anymore. We don't.
Okay. I know if I missed something, I try to follow. I live, Western Pennsylvania. I mean, I read the news. I listen to the Fan, 93.7 The Fan. But so.
Yeah. Overall schedule. I would not be surprised if this team went 3-9 again. I would also not be surprised if this team went 9-3.
And that's exactly why I have one game on here. One game, guys. I
think I know where you're going, and I'll be honest when you tell me.
You can take the words out of my mouth. What game do you think if it's gonna, what direction? Is this gonna take a crap and go south, or is this gonna be a hot year? And I think it's September 7th.
You are absolutely correct. On the road at Cincinnati.
That is a Nye Park Stadium. You will know what kind of Pitt Panther team that the Mountaineers are going to face the next week. And it's going to be tough because West Virginia is already going to be a little bit battle hardened. We're not going to get to West Virginia yet by playing Penn State.
And you guys are playing Penn State early. Absolutely.
First game, Penn State. Let's talk real quick about Kent State, the first game. Do you think is that going to be a flash in the pan? Is it going to be, are they going to win? I mean, we have had Pitt lose to Youngstown State a few years ago.
Yeah, we've lost to a Division I AA school.
Yeah,
in the past. I mean, that's why it's so difficult to predict, especially as a fan who desperately wants them to be relevant. We're favored by 23.5. We're at home. New offensive coordinator. We had such a horrible season last year, finishing at 3-9, and it was just a disaster from start to finish. Just an absolute shit show. So I think they're going to come out strong, and I think that if I were to place a bet, I would say I'd take Pitt with the points on that first game.
Yeah, I think I would too. I think that's a solid W. I have that listed as a big W. I Penn State got a guy from Illinois. I'm sorry. They got it. I get Pitt. I'm not getting Pitt and Penn State mixed up, but I was thinking about that. I'm like, yeah. Another team got a couple new offensive and defensive coordinators. Now it was Penn State. So Cincinnati, we touched on that a little bit. We touched on Cincinnati. Cincinnati is picked in the cellar of the Big 12. You don't know. I mean, the coach is on the hot seat. I don't really think they're a great team, but I think they're a team early in the season that might have a little bit of swagger. They're not going to be beaten down. And I think it's very dangerous going into Cincinnati as a Pitt team that has not been tested. Pitt State it should be a warm-up. If they struggle against Kent State and they go into Cincinnati and lose, I think I can see I'm going to have to go through two different scenarios for Pitt. So we'll go through the scenario first with them beating Cincinnati. Okay, Joe?
All right.
They beat Cincinnati. They go into Morgantown. What do you think happens? What do you think is going to happen? They play at home against the Mountaineers. So give us your thoughts on that September 14th game.
Okay. I have two answers for this, and neither one of them is what I'm thinking. It's what I know. If they go 2-0 and they come into that game riding high, there's mad pub form out there. Things are going well. They're going to get blown out by West Virginia, 47-12.
Okay.
If they lose to Cincinnati,
okay,
and it's close,
but
they do get that test, they still lose. That's what it's like being a Pitt fan. I love my team. I want them to win every single time. I yell. I lose my voice every game. I lose it every game, especially against the best rival we have, which is West Virginia. But we find ways to lose games we should win. Now, I guess I do have a third option, which is about a 5 to 10% chance, is that we rise up and all of a sudden things just click and it works out, just like it did in 2007 when my boy and your boy Pat McAfee missed 2 field goals in that game.
Yeah. He did, and he didn't miss a lot of field goals, and it took him a lot of years to get over that, and a lot of fans to get over it. But he's now back on the West Virginia bandwagon, and everybody just loves him. And I love being a fan of him and watching him do his thing. He's doing a lot of great things for the university. So I agree. I think West Virginia has 2 returning quarterbacks that have seen gameplay and are solid. They have receivers, they have running backs that are fantastic. The offensive line, there's some new bodies there, but it should be plug and play. The only thing I'm concerned about is defensive back. Last year they had a kid that went to the Steelers, Beanie Bishop, and we'll see how the Mountaineers do as their defensive backfield, especially since PITT is going to have that up tempo, that fast pace. But that's common for a lot of teams, like Texas Tech. It's where it started.
Yeah, you've got a lot of guys who have seen that before.
Yeah, they've seen that before. So let's go to Youngstown State. Youngstown State, another home game. You're going to be up there. It's going to be a beautiful Saturday afternoon, September 21st. But before we go to that, let's talk about the kickoff time. I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. The kickoff time for 3:30. That is like a great time, in my opinion, but there's one thorn that kind of puts a burr in your saddle as far as being a tailgater at Acrisure, and that would be the Pirates game, right, at 1 o'clock.
Absolutely.
What the hell?
Horrible scheduling. The college football still isn't in the place where they can force Major League Baseball to change days or dictate their schedule. I guess the Pirates did a good thing by moving the start time of the game to 1 o'clock. But let's live in a dream world where the Pirates are still in the hunt for the wild card. And it's a Saturday, so there's a pretty good chance that either Jones or Skeens is going to be on the mound. And they're already averaging about 20,000 people a game. Put that into a playoff fervor, there could be 28,000 Pirates fans there if that works. You put that on top of the 60,000 that are going to be there for the brawl, and they all share the same parking lots. It's going to be a mess. The good thing is, I would say that if you are a dedicated tailgater, like me and my buddies, we get there early enough that we don't necessarily have to worry about it. But all of those,
they open it up early enough that you guys can get in there and get set up.
Yeah, I mean, everybody will be gone. We'll be there before the Pirate game starts.
Okay,
but
Joe, I want to ask you real quick: are you going to be able to? Would you do the shotgun where you do both barrels? You go to see the Buccos play, and then stagger over to Acrisure.
I've done that before.
Not
for a game of this significance. I've had a noon game at Acrisure, and then a 7 o'clock game at PNC. I've also done noon games at PITT, and then over to what's it called? I don't know, the Civic Arena for a Pens game at 7.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
I've done both of those, but the problem is everything converges. I mean, everybody who's on this video knows everything converges in Pittsburgh, and it all goes to one spot, and that is right where both stadiums are. And if you've got 80,000 people trying to get in and get out at the same time, that is not going to work. That is not going to work. You're going to see. It's like if Kenny Chesney was playing Heinz Field and the Grateful Dead were at PNC. You've got way too many people and not enough parking and not enough roads to handle the traffic. So it's going to be a mess. My advice to everybody out there, even if you're a West Virginia fan, we don't necessarily want you there, but if you're coming, get there early.
I'll tell you what, I have until like the 21st to buy my PITT tickets as a season ticket holder. And I don't think I'm going to go. I just don't think it's going to happen because I don't want to have to fight that traffic. And here's the other thing, I'm going to have, I'll be coming back from a JV game probably that time too. So, only 5 pounds of crap in a 2-pound bag, right? So
yeah,
let's talk about some of these comments here. So we have someone said here, Tim Green said, if I can get the show, I'm starting to like Joe a little bit more as the show goes along. That's a good one, Tim. What's not to like, right?
I'm a surprisingly reasonable guy.
Yeah.
Even though I very much dislike West Virginia and Penn State.
There you go. Now here. You're on an island, and you have a half a Tic Tac, and you have to split it. But you have to split it with either a West Virginia fan or a Penn State fan. Who are you going to split it with?
West Virginia fans 10 times over.
Yeah, that's the way Mountaineer fans feel. So that's a great answer. So we have 12 folks peeping our show right now, and I'm hoping we'll have a few more watch as the day goes on tomorrow. But we're not even a fourth of the way through the schedule, and we're 40 minutes in. So we've had a wonderful time talking to you so far, Joe. So you got Youngstown State. We think that's a layup. What do you think? Do you think that's a layup?
It damn well better be.
Yeah. Okay. So we have so far for the first scenario, you have West Virginia beating them. You have them beating Cincinnati and Kent State and Youngstown State. Now, we'll go through the blue pill after we do the red pill, but what about North Carolina? Mac Brown.
Okay, I'm going to be a little bit mean here. Can't Mac Brown just die? Can he just go away?
I think this might be his last year coaching because he's
98 years old, and yet he still gets 4-star recruits every year, 5-star recruits.
Young kid,
but
man.
it never really comes into success. Excuse me.
They're pretty good.
We're 500 against North Carolina over the last 10 years or so.
Yeah.
So this is a pick 'em. At North Carolina. If we're going down the road of Pitt having a good season, I think we win this game. But again, it comes down to the Cincinnati game and how that is going to shape up. But I think we beat North Carolina because I don't think they're in any position.
So the red pill's telling me if they beat Cincinnati, they're going to beat North Carolina. I think if they lose to Cincinnati, they're going to lose North Carolina, and it's just going to be the domino effect.
Yep.
So the Cal is a strange team to schedule.
We didn't schedule them. They're in the ACC, brother.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, you look at it on the schedule, you're like, what's the non-conference game? And you're like, no, they're part of the ACC. They're in the Atlantic Coastal Conference because where California is, it's by the Atlantic Ocean.
Yep.
So what do you think the Cal? Are they gonna? I think traveling is gonna be a hindrance to them because it's a long flight, guys. I'm sorry.
Yeah, especially I'd really love to see that be a noon kickoff. It looks like the time is TBA. I'd love to see a noon kickoff on that day.
Yeah.
And to be perfectly honest, I don't know anything about the Cal football team since Aaron Rodgers left. I know absolutely nothing about them. I don't know what kind of offense they run. I don't know what their quarterback does. I don't even know who their head coach is.
Blue pill or red pill? Even if they lose to Cincinnati, if Pitt loses Cincinnati, they're still going to win this game. I think this is going to be, a tough game to travel into Pittsburgh in October 12th, which is not going to be like super chilly, but they're going to be some tired, sleepy Bears, and I'm feeling the Pitt Panthers in this game. So either way, I think it's a win. So the next week they're off. They're off October 19th, and then in another home game. You got a lot of home games early in the season, which is wonderful because it's the time of year.
No, I think it stinks. I like home games when it's cold and wet.
Really?
I much prefer October and November home games as opposed to August and September games. I like cold weather cat, man.
I like that sweatshirt. Like, okay, it's 80 degrees when I'm wearing a sweatshirt around my waist like a dumbass around the parking lots tailgating because I know when the sun goes down, it's going to get chilly. That's about where I'm at with that because that's the kind of tailgating I like when I look like a dumbass carrying a sweatshirt around. So, Syracuse, October 24th. This is a 7:30 game. Fantastic. I love to see that. What do you think? I think Pitt, either with the blue or the red pill, being they lose to Cincinnati or they win against Cincinnati, I think they win this game. What do you think the Panthers are going to do?
Did you happen to see any of the game against the Orange last year?
I did.
In Syracuse.
Yeah.
And their quarterback that entire game was their backup tight end. And we lost.
Yeah. But, that's a very Pitt thing to do, because then you'll go in and you'll beat Clemson.
Yeah, exactly. We're at home this time. I think there's enough leadership on the team that they should win this one. But I would not be surprised if they lose. Whoever Syracuse head coach is, I forget his name. He come out and run the wishbone. Mm-hmm. and just totally baffle the defense.
Smashed mouth.
They've shown, Pitt has shown that it cannot handle something they're not expecting. And
well, Joe, to make you feel better, they signed when the NAL offseason, they signed a water boy that looks to be a monster. So you might have to worry about that.
I just might.
Okay. SMU. So SMU used to be the running gag about the death sentence. But they're back and they're in the ACC. You're going to see them on the schedule from now going forward. But you have to go to Dallas to play these guys. I think this is a blue pill, red pill deal. With Cincinnati, if Pitt loses to Cincinnati, they're going to definitely lose this game. This is one of the deals where if they win, I think they can go into Dallas and pull one out. So.
I think the first part of what you're saying is right, and the second part is what you're saying is wrong. We go to Dallas. We haven't seen SMU in. We played them in a bowl about 10 years ago and lost. I think that's a loss no matter what. That's the game that we just shit the bed. That's the game we shit the bed in. Blue pill or red pill. That's the game we shit the bed.
Oh my. Okay. Well, it's sad that a West Virginia fan's more optimistic about what's going to be happening here than you are as a season ticket holder. Let's get to some comments here. So Jackson John said, I wouldn't be surprised if Pitt upsets West Virginia and Clemson this season. Narduzzi always gets his team ready when they have a top 25 team. So Jackson Johnson is like our resident expert in college sports, and he's not a West Virginia fanboy. He is a college football fan. So it's great to hear his insight here. So John Cunningham is a West Virginia guy. He said their quarterback was the backup tight end, and didn't y'all starting quarterback tryouts to be a tight end after he got benched? Yeah. Last year that quarterback was a hot mess.
His name was Phil Jerkovich. He went to high school right next to where Shane lives right now at Pine Richland High School. He spurned Pitt coming out of Pine Richland to go to Notre Dame, and then Pitt recruited him heavy when he transferred out of Notre Dame to get him back to come back home. He spurned us a second time and went to Boston College, and then after Boston College realized he sucked a lot, he finally came crawling back to Pitt, and he lasted 6 games.
I watched him play basketball. I remember when he was there at Pine Richland. That's when my kids were playing sports against Pine Richland, but my son had a real bad concussion returning kicks against Pine Richland when he was younger. Play was over and they hit him. So let's ask. Jackson Johnson says, "I just wish Pitt and Penn State would trade Kent State and Youngstown State for a Pitt Penn State game. Don't we all?"
Couldn't agree more, Jackson. These 3 teams need to be in the same conference. I know it's financially it's not going to work because they're all essentially the same market, but Pitt, Penn State, and West Virginia need to be in the same conference.
Yeah, I agree. So, guys, I'm thinking I know I'm picking you on Jackson, my friend. Okay, Joey. By the way, Shane, Jackson Johnson is Alabama fan, real tight. Yeah, I know, Tim. I didn't want to say that. I didn't want to announce that he's an Alabama fan because Alabama is going to have a rough couple years. And I don't want to trigger him, but we'll see what he has to say about that. So we have Syracuse, SMU, now Virginia. I I really don't know. I think Virginia is like an overrated brand that I just don't really think that they're as good as what people say they are. And I don't think I can remember when they had a decent team. But do they play spoiler a lot against Pitt?
They can. We've got a over the last 10 years. I think we've got a winning record. I want to say 7-3.
Yeah.
Over the last 10 games, since we don't play every team every year anymore. I want to say 7-3. This should be a game we win. There's nothing that screams to me this could be a letdown game. If they lose to SMU, they're going to come back and try even harder. I don't understand how you can, when these guys are they're getting paid and they're getting the tuition paid for, that they have to play harder after a loss. You should be playing hard all the time. The coaches as well, you come up with something new and different, but that's a game I think Pitt should win.
Yeah, I think so too. I really feel that I either the red or blue pill. I think that depending on if they win against Cincinnati, they're gonna pull that one off. Now the next game, Clemson, is a game where I can never figure out the pulse of the Panthers and where they're gonna what heartbeat they're gonna have when they roll into that weekend, because like as a smart ass, I've said, yeah, Clemson's going to lose to Pitt, and sure enough, they did. And I was just kind of talking outside of my mouth, but that's happened multiple times. And
twice.
Yeah. So I think the higher Clemson's ranked, the more likelihood Pitt is to knock them out. Do you think Clemson just overlooks the Panthers, or what do you think the situation is? What's happening there?
I'm not in the locker room. I don't know what Narduzzi tells his guys when they play Clemson. But there's absolutely no way that we should have won those two games against them. I was at, what was it, the year before we won the ACC trophy. I'm going to say 2019 or whatever it was. I forget what year it was. In Charlotte on New Year's Eve. It was miserable. It was raining. All of the Charlotte Stadium was filled with Clemson fans, and there were about 14 Pitt fans.
Yeah,
and I brought 3 of them with me, and it was just an absolute shit show. So the Chris Blewett field goal 2 years prior to beat them, and then the year we beat them. In the regular season, I think it was in the ACC tournament or the ACC championship year. I have no idea how that happened. I don't think Lightning's going to strike a third time. I think this is a loss no matter what.
Yeah, I'm feeling that too. So we're going to scratch that down as a loss. Now Louisville, I'm high on Louisville, and it's not that I'm like it's not my college hall pass. That's not the team I want to cheat on West Virginia with. It's just happens to be a team that I think has financially is solid, has a good reputation, good academics. I think it fits in the Big 12. It fits in the ACC. I can't believe they were left out in the cold for as long as they were. But I think they're gonna beat Pitt on that November 23rd.
I tend to agree with you, especially after the beatdown we're probably going to get the week before. There's going to be some broken fingers and broken hearts after that game, and at that point in the season, it's going to be tough to come back after getting stomped by Clemson.
Yeah, I think after the Clemson game and Louisville's going to be a tough one, especially going into L&N Stadium. But you guys finished the season at Boston College. Man, I can't believe it's so sad that Boston College is in the state that they're in. I mean, they're never in the conversation of like where schools are going to land. Like Boston College is always going to be left out. I mean, they're they're great. They're a storied program. They're a great program that I love seeing play Notre Dame every year. I love seeing them play Pitt. I enjoyed them playing West Virginia. But I think this is a game that the Panthers can end the year on a high note. So what do you think?
I agree. Boston College is slowly dipping into that UConn territory where they need to figure out whether or not they want to be a basketball school or a football school, and they cannot be both.
That's right.
And I think Boston College would much better suit itself to be a basketball school. When was the last time you heard Miami lands five-star blue chip wide receiver from Dorchester, Massachusetts? They don't make football players in Massachusetts. I mean, I'm sure they make some, but it's not Texas. It's not Florida. It's not what Western Pennsylvania used to be. There's not enough recruiting base there. Their basketball programs always, on the cusp of being either really good or really bad. But when it comes to football, they're getting dangerously close to that UConn where, Conference USA is calling.
Yeah, I think that's the situation. And we'll touch back up when we wrap the show up. But I'm thinking, out of the teams, your wish list, if the ACC folds, do you think Pitt will end up in the Big 12?
It's a definite possibility because the university itself doesn't want to miss out on the money. They don't want to miss out on the money. And I can't fathom the idea that, we're talking about, the difference between $20 million in football revenue or $40 million in football revenue, depending on what conference you're in.
Yeah.
The difference being, between $20 or $40 million, that Penn State gets more than Pitt does or West Virginia does based on what conference they're in.
Yeah.
Pitt is sitting on a multi-billion-dollar endowment. Billions. That is money sitting there. Now, I know you're not allowed to use your endowment for the athletics, but you can shift some of that endowment to something else and then take that money and put it into your football program, your athletic department, if that's what you want to do. And the universities don't want to do it. They would much rather sit there. We have a chancellor. Other schools have presidents. Our chancellor, our last three chancellors, all they cared about was raising the endowment.
Yeah.
Because that's what gets them their next job. The endowment is everything. If you go from 3.5 billion to 5 billion, dude, your next job, you're going to get paid twice as much to do the same thing. Raise it from 5 billion to 6.5 billion. And it's just a massive money chase, and it's ruining college athletics. I don't mean to be so bitter and downtrodden about it, but man, I miss the days when it was about the games and not everything that surrounded it.
I miss Pitt having its own stadium. I'm a big fan of college sports having their own facilities. I mean, you look at West Virginia got a soccer stadium. The girls played for a national championship, and last year the boys played for a national championship. They got a baseball stadium. Guess what happened? The boys made a run into the playoffs this year in baseball. I think it's great for universities when they entrust these smaller, they call them Olympic sports, but they're with a little bit of that pool of money to kind of invest in their programs, and it just helps it all. This year, West Virginia, they do like a point scale, and if you get over 1,000 points, all your programs are doing well. So West Virginia's athletics are very healthy at this point. And Pitt, I think the biggest negative for Pitt over the past 30 years, the thing that's hurt them the most is when they stopped having their own ball field. So
no, I would not disagree. The identity goes away a little bit. It's not on campus. it's a short ride away. It's like 3
Yeah,
miles. It's not far, but just an anecdote to reinforce what you were saying. It's actually in my will that after I am cremated, some of my ashes will be spread where Pitt Stadium used to be.
That's awesome. That's great. Love to hear that.
That is not a joke. I'm not making that up. That is going to happen.
And they're going to take a little bit, put it in a salt shaker, and then take it down on Mountaineer Field where.
No, they're not going to do that. No, the last time I was at Mountaineer Field was 1997. That was the overtime game, the Pistol Pete game, to Terry Murphy in the south end zone. We won the game in overtime for the first and only winning season I saw when I was in college.
That's fantastic.
We went 6-6, and then went on to go to the Liberty Bowl and get destroyed by the mighty Southern Mississippi, whatever their mascots is, 41-7.
Oh my God, that's horrible. Well, I mean, my freshman year, they went 11-0, and then went to the Sugar Bowl. First drive, scored 7 points, then scored the rest of the game. So they lost to Florida. But those memories, there's no price to put on those memories. They're great that you have them, that I have them, that the people in the comment section have their memories. And I just want college football to be in a healthy state so that people 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 years from now can have those same memories. But to wrap things up, I want to ask you one question about Jackson Johnson had talked about this. Let me pull it back up again. Playing on Black Friday, the backyard brawl. I think Utah, BYU, West Virginia, and Pitt. Those are the games I want to see Black Friday or right after Thanksgiving. That Saturday after Thanksgiving. I think that'd be great. Put that back on the schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. Pitt, West Virginia used to be the last game of the season. I mean, occasionally they'd move it up or down, but it used to be Pitt, West Virginia was the last game of the season for both teams, and that's great. And it's fine to do it on Friday because by that point in the season, your high school football is usually over. They've switched to Saturday or Saturday night games for the state championships and things like that. So I've got no problem playing on Fridays after high school football's over, but I don't want to see them playing on Fridays until high school football's over. Friday night lights is for high school football, but yeah, absolutely. Especially a big rivalry game like that, Yeah,
I agree. I like that game is good at the end of the season. Beginning of the season, I don't feel it. I really don't like having Penn State the first game of the season, and in a couple of years the West Virginia play Alabama. I want to take the person who's scheduling some of those and just kick them in the ass, because nowadays with the college football playoff, you don't want to be playing the big boys anymore. It's not about a point scale where you're trying to nudge the computer like a pinball machine, like tilt. But hey, I really enjoyed having you on here. Do we have any comments in the comment section that I haven't covered? Let me see here. So West Virginia Pitt night game. So West Virginia has these black uniforms. You think that's a uniform that you want to see at night? If you're a fan of any college sports team, you want the black unis on a night game. It's a mixed bag. I had a former West Virginia player on, and he hated the idea of the black uniforms. But what are your thoughts this year on Pitt's new uniforms?
I don't think they have any new uniforms. Once we switch back to the royal blue and yellow, I know I'm biased, but I think they're the sharpest uniforms in college football. You got your home yellows, your home whites, and your away yellows, and that's it. Oregon is what screwed us up. Oregon is the one that has different uniforms every single game, and somehow it seems to attract recruits. I don't understand it. I'm an old man, so I don't get it. But you've got your home uniform, your away uniform. Build that brand, build that identity. You don't need 6 different uniforms throughout the course of the season. But that's just the old man in me talking.
So I mean, I loved when they went back to the Royal. They went back to the light, the pop. When they had that black and that like shit gold.
Oh yeah, the Dino Cat, the computer generated Panther that looked like the stock market. I hate that.
Terrible.
I hated that. It's a shame that Larry Fitzgerald had to wear that uniform instead of the royal blue. It's a shame.
That was tragic. But I want to thank you again. We're gonna pop off here, guys. I want to thank you for being here. If you like the show, like and subscribe, become a member. Jackson Johnson, Tim Green, guys, everybody, thanks for popping in tonight. I want to thank Joe Hartz for coming in here. I don't want it to be another 30 years, but I'll talk to you after the show a bit. But guys, thanks a lot and have a great night.